Hey guys, it's Julie Spencer, author of the Buxton Peak series. We are part of the way into Buxton Peak Book 2, Center Stage. And we are halfway through this chapter. Let's see, this chapter 5, which is called They're Merely Instruments in His Hands. And as we ended the last video, Ian and the band, Buxton Peak, were on stage practicing before their performance. And at this point, Ian is singing along with the band. And Megan is telling what she sees on stage. At times, Ian stopped and corrected something he perceived as incorrect. A note was played wrong or a rhythm was slightly off. It all sounded fine to Megan. In fact, it sounded more than fine. Again, she saw a new side of her husband. This was not the goofy boy she'd known since the day they'd met, or even the gentle, confident man who treated her like a lady and lavished her with her heart's desires and fulfilled every wish. This was a man in charge of his employees, leading them and directing them. It reminded her of how a commander or general would take charge of his troops while heading into battle. He was firm and spoke with intention. He gave orders to the other band members, and when they offered suggestions, he took them into consideration and accepted their input. Then he would compliment them for a good idea and readjust his instructions to include their concept. The way he carried himself was a little intimidating, but the other band members didn't seem to feel that way. They were appendages of a whole, working together to make the group work. But Ian was obviously the head. He was their leader. Megan had never witnessed anything like it. They ended their practice session with a little pep talk Megan couldn't hear. The instruments and microphones were placed back in their stands, awaiting the next phase of the evening when they would entertain thousands. "Okay, come here." Rhonda practically pulled Megan backward, further into the curtains and away from where they could be seen. Had they done something wrong? She quickly followed Rhonda back into the shadows. It reminded Megan how she had promised Ian she would stay in the shadows and not distract him. The guys walked with purpose off the stage and through the area where the girls had just been standing. It would have been distracting to them for the girls to be anywhere close. It may have felt like Ian was ignoring her if he walked by without saying hello, or annoyed she was there to begin with. Megan may have felt slighted at best, if not seriously offended. Just as quickly as they had come this direction, they were gone, off to perform some other part of their pre-show ritual. Ian hadn't been kidding when he'd told Megan he'd be distracted for the rest of the day. She was glad to have Rhonda by her side. Rhonda already knew what to do and where to go, when to speak and when to be in the shadows. Having her there was a comfort. "I take it you know from experience what happens if you interrupt their ritual?" Megan asked. "No way. Kai warned me before he let me anywhere near my first concert that I needed to stay far, far away from Ian. He's in a zone and nobody bothers him. Nobody who wants to keep their job anyway." Just as if some unspoken instructions had been shared, the stadium was abuzz with people and noise. Everyone in the stadium who knew not to bother the band during rehearsals resumed their jobs. Chairs were moved, lined up, and readjusted out on the floor. Tech workers tested the lighting and climbed scaffolding. People called out instructions to one another, and stadium employees made their way up and down the stairs, making sure every little thing was perfect for the throngs of people who would arrive shortly. Amidst the organized chaos, another group of musicians made their way out onto a smaller stage Megan hadn't noticed before. It was out front and down a few steps and already had instruments set up and ready. The musicians performed a similar routine of tuning instruments and testing speakers and microphones. They were pretty good, but nothing like Ian and his band. "What are you doing this spring?" Rhonda asked in a fake British accent. "Oh, just opening for Buxton Peak. Nothing special." Megan laughed, realizing this must be a real honor for these young musicians. She stood there and watched them rehearse for a few more minutes, and Rhonda pulled her gently away. "Let's go get our clothes changed." Rhonda led Megan expertly through the maze of scaffolding, tunnels, and hallways until they reached the dressing room set aside for them. They went shopping that morning at the Ilum Mall, where they'd first arrived in Copenhagen, without the boys so they could enjoy the relative anonymity. They were still nervous about being recognized since their photos had recently been plastered all over social media during the scandal in Paris, but most of the cameras didn't get a clear shot of their faces, so they figured they'd be okay. Rhonda had helped Megan pick out a cocktail dress that was suitable for a concert in Europe, yet modest enough that Megan wasn't uncomfortable wearing it in public. Rhonda teased Megan that she probably shouldn't show it to Ian ahead of the concert or they might not make it on stage on time. While looking at herself in the three-way mirror in the dressing room, she thought Rhonda was probably right. Perhaps in this dress, people wouldn't look at her and think she wasn't pretty enough to be Mrs. Ian Taylor. As she took the dress off, careful not to look at the price tag for fear she'd change her mind, she kind of liked the idea she'd turn some heads tonight. "This has been the best day, Rhonda." Megan draped her arm through her friends as they walked through the now bustling stadium. "Thank you for taking me shopping and helping me arrange a tour of the park and stadium and giving me pointers about how to stay out of my husband's way." They laughed a little at that one. "I'm really glad you're here," Rhonda sighed. "It's great being with Kai, but you can probably guess that it gets a little lonely. This VIP pass gets you in a lot of doors, but if you're walking through them alone, it's not all that exciting." Rhonda held up the lanyard that was draped around her neck. Ian had warned Megan never to walk anywhere without it, not even to the restroom, or she might not be able to get back in. With a lot of extra security at a concert, no one would know her outside the inner circle. Inside the inner circle, she was treated like royalty. She was Ian Taylor's wife. Outside the inner circle, she was just another groupie. Okay, that is the end of chapter 5. And we'll go on to the next video, and next we will go into chapter 6, live at the park and stadium. And if you liked this video and like this video series, I would appreciate if you would give it a thumbs up and like it and subscribe to my channel so that you can get all the videos as they come available. And we will go on to the next video.